So introduction to React. So when I started off with React, the very first question is, we all have studied JavaScript. Why React? What is the use of React? See, JavaScript can be used for various tasks. It's not only front-end validation. It can also be used for back-end development, server-side scripting, everything. But they needed something that is very specifically focused for building interactive user interfaces. So when you talk about React, it's all about building interactive UIs. It's a package that's fully focused on UIs. And what is the advantage of using React is it makes building complex UIs easier and more manageable and improved performance. So when you're talking about the React, we all know about the document object model, right? What is this DOM? What do you mean by a DOM? It's the tree structure that's getting loaded into the memory. It's based on your web page structure. So that's the DOM. So if you are manipulating anything using JavaScript, how will you change some HTML code using JavaScript? You'll manipulate the actual DOM. When we talk about React, they are saying we are going to have a copy of that DOM. So there will be another virtual DOM, which is the copy of the actual document object model. And what we are doing here is only whatever changes that happen to the virtual DOM, those changes will be propagated to the actual DOM. By maintaining this, what we achieve is we achieve improved performance. So there is a copy of the actual DOM. Whatever changes that we do will be performed on the virtual DOM. And then only those changes will be propagated to the actual DOM. So by this, we are able to optimize rendering and improve performance. Code reusability. So this is another very interesting factor. See, when I'm going to write HTML code and the same HTML code should be used across various pages, it becomes a problem, right? Again and again, I have to write the same code. So in Code Spindle, I have used menus across different pages. So the same menu is getting used across different pages. When you talk about React, we can make that entire menu, we can put that menu inside a component and reuse it. So whenever I need that menu, I can just call this function, write that menu out. So reusability is the important factor, reducing redundancy and also improves code maintainability. How it improves code maintainability? When I have the same code in multiple places, I have to change it across various places. But when I have it as a function, I write that code, I change it in one place so that wherever I want, I can reuse it. Large community and ecosystem. This is like with respect to React, you have a lot of tools available, libraries and functionalities and support available online. So with a little help, you'll be able to learn React. That's another advantage. So what is this caution? Say if I have a very simple web page that I should create, a static web page I should create, it doesn't need any complex UIs, then no need to go in for React. So this point I have been always stressing out. Just because you learn something, no need to apply that on everything you learn. It's like only when it is necessary you use it. For simple UIs from for some static pages and things like that, you can just avoid React. What is this create React app we have installed? So this is a tool which will help us as a beginner to develop some single page React applications. So we can develop some single page React applications and it's useful for building small to medium sized React projects. You can just like that perform fast and easy development. So this tool we are going to use and create React app is not ideal for complex projects. So as a beginner, this tool helps us to quickly develop some pages and learn React. That's why we are using this tool. And when you talk about create React app, it consists of so many other tools within it. So we have Webpack, Babel, Jest, ESLint, Development Server. So what is the use of all these things? Webpack, it just takes your file, it bundles your file together, and then it helps in optimization of the file so that it can be efficiently loaded in the web browser. So when you talk about a project, you have JavaScript files, HTML files, CSS files, and other files. So all these files will be bundled, and it helps in optimization so that the web browser can load it efficiently. That's the use of this pack. And Babel is JavaScript transpiler. So this is like when we are working with React, we are working with JavaScript ES6 version, right? So it's a latest version. It may not be compatible with older browsers. So this tool helps us in addressing that version incompatibility. So it converts all your syntax into a version that older browsers can run. That is the use of this tool. Jest is an testing framework wherein you can write unit tests and test your React components. But anyway, we are not going to use this. This is also part of your Create React app. ESLint is a static code analysis tool. That is, even before you execute your code, it will tell us what kind of issues exist in your code. So ESLint is part of Create React app. And there's one more thing, the development server, which we have started right now. So development server helps us, it provides us the environment to run our project, see the output, right? So we also have a development server support here. So that's about Create React app. And we have seen installation of Create React app. If you're planning to install it in your laptops, I put up a separate lecture video on how to install this and start with this. So even in the labs, we all have installed Create React app, right? The first thing we have to learn when we are starting off with React is import and export statements. Uh, Even before going into import and export statements, now you have installed this thing, and you have moved to the folder. And when you go to this specific folder, you'll be able to see some files, some default files created for you. The first file is app.js. There is a file called app.js. You can open this file. To the left hand side, you'll see app.js created. And when you see here, inside this, you'll have a function by name app. Are you able to locate this file, app.js? And this is a function that actually writes the code required that you're seeing on the screen here. So what is this function app is performing is it's writing that logo, that text, whatever it is that you're seeing on the screen. See, you can very well modify certain things. Say I have written learn React by Satish. I just put my name here. So you're able to see this on the screen, right? So what this app does is it is responsible for returning the code required for that specific page you're seeing on the development server. And there's also one more file that is index.js. Have you located app.js to the left in the folder? Next is index.js. When you open index.js, what is happening here? You see there are a few commands. One is we are importing app from app.js. So that function we are getting in here. And we are also finding document.get element by id root. We all know what is dot get element by id, and then we have this id root. So we are trying to access some element with the id root. Where is this element present? So that element is actually present in this file called index.html. So when you go to index.html, you will be able to see div id root. So in index.js, what is that we are trying to do is access that element with the div id root, and next we are rendering our app.js. So what app.js, when we render app.js, what will happen? This code will be rendered inside the division with the id root. Are you all clear with this? See, there are few standard files that will be created for you. What are those files? One is app.js, another one is index.js. It's not I just write index.js, and another file you'll have is index.html. What is index.js? You're seeing on the screen. This is index.js. What it does, it accesses this root element. Where is this root element? Inside our index.html file. So within this division, the source code is written. What is that source code that's written? That is corresponding to your app.js. So how is that you're writing? You're rendering the app here. So this is going to write it inside root, that division. And where is this root element available? In index.html file. That's how it is. Or you are clear with these files? Next, when you have a JS file for styling, you will also have an index.css file. What is the use of CSS file? You put all your style sheets inside that. You put all your styling commands, properties inside that. And for app.js also, you will have a corresponding app.css file. So what app.css file is going to contain? You're looking at some kind of styling here, right? Background color is some black, some kind of styling is available. So that will be available in app.css. And index.css, so if you're going to have some styling for the index page, then you're going to have here. Okay, so you'll have some kind of CSS files. If you take a look at this, you'll have some CSS files. So all these CSS files are used for putting in your CSS properties. So that is the basic structure of the folder. There's one more thing we have to do. As I told you, what is very extensively used when you take a look at the code on the top, import commands are extensively used. So when you go to app.js and you take a look at the code, export commands are extensively used. So export, import is part of your React. That is our first step. When you are learning React, what is that we have to learn? What is the use of import, export commands? I've already published a lecture video on import, export commands, detailed insight on import and export. But I'll tell you how to work with some basic export and import of variables here. So let's go to your folder, and then you have the source folder here, right? You click on this icon and add a new JS file. So you can add any JS file, like I'll click on this, say I'll say prp.js. I'm not able to think about any good names now. So prp.js I've added. So you can add a file. This is the JavaScript file that we are adding just to check import and export. And you can have another file too, which I have created, testfile.js. So I have two files which I have created. One is prp.js, another one is testfile.js. Now what we'll practice here is export. So let's say, let me have some variable here, first name. I'll put my name Satish. So that is the thing. And so this is a variable that's present in prp.js file. And if I want to export this variable so that it can be imported in other places, what is that I do? Export, and within parenthesis I give the variable name. Okay. So this is exporting. We all know export, import in other languages. Import in Python we know, import in Java we know. It's just importing the required functions, classes from other files. So we should export. Then you go to testfile.js, and then what is that you do is import. What is that you are importing? First name. So it will give you are importing that from prp.js. That's the meaning of import. And after I import, I can console log that first name. Very simple. Now if I run this, how you run your JavaScript code, I have configured it as Shift Alt N. So you can see the output here. Satish is imported from that file, that particular value, variable having that value is imported here, and that value are able to see it on the screen. So what is required is, first you should export, then you should import. To import, what you have to do first? Export. So you can export multiple variables, like let address equals value. So if I want to export multiple variables, first name comma address. That's how I export multiple variables. If I want to import multiple variables, how will I import? First name comma address. And I can also log it to the console. Now I Shift Alt N if I perform, Satish Vellore. Got it? So you can export variables. I have even discussed further things, how you can export variables with an alias, all those things in the video lecture. But for us, for now, this understanding is important. We can export variables. What is the keyword for exporting? Export, and for importing is import. Can I move forward? We can also export components or functions. So the standard here is, say if I have a function, the function name should actually match the file name. If you have just one function in a file, the function name should match the file name. And the function name should be in capital letter. The starting letter should be a capital letter. Say I'll just create a function PRP. That's a bad function name, but we'll go with this. So this should be a capital letter. And if you have a PRP building something like that, the following for every word, the first letter will be a capital letter. That's the convention. And we'll have console log say this is from PRP. Okay. So I have written a function here. How will I export this function? You can say export. You can very well give that within the parenthesis like PRP building. Okay. Now in testfile.js, how will I import that? The same way, import PRP building from prp.js. And how will you call this function? PRP building. You just call it like that. Save it, run this. So this is from PRP. So you are able to export a function and import it. In React, we call this function as a component. So we say we are exporting components. So that's what is happening here. When you take a look at app.js, we are writing a function and finally we are exporting that function. And what is that we are doing in index.js? We are importing that function, rendering that function, calling that function. That's it. So when you take a look at this, we can export it like this. If you just have one function in a file, that function name should match the file name. That's why app.js matches the function name app. And how you can export that is you can use export default and then you just give the function name. No need to give parenthesis when you're using default. And how will you import something that is exported as default? You go to that file, no need to give parenthesis, you can just import like this. So you're going to get the output. So when you take a look at the React components, they would have used export default, the function name. What is the function name here? App. So what is the file name? App.js. And you see the very first letter of your function is a capital letter of your component. What is that I told you is the file name should match the function name. That's the standard. Okay. But when you have a file name to be app and then you declare with a lowercase app here, it will give you an error. So these are some of the standards that you have to take care of. Are you clear with some import and export? Are you comfortable with importing, exporting functions and variables?